Basically, I finally came to WWE, and I call Taboo Tuesday. It's a big secret. They fly me to San Diego, I believe. I don't know if you're a Seinfeld fan.
Absolutely, the guy's great.
All right, so we kayfabe the whole thing, and I'm speaking with Sue DeRosa, who still works for Kevin Dunn. She is one of the nicest people I've ever met. And they fly me in, and they said, we're going to keep this very low-key. So I said, okay. I said, give the driver the name Art Vandelay. And that turned out to be a mistake, because not only is that a more famous name than Joey Styles, but the low-key town car that's supposed to pick me up wound up being a bright white super stretch limo. This could not be less kayfabe. Thank God I'd been out of the business for 4 years, and nobody knew who I was. But I made my surprise. I called Taboo Tuesday with Jerry Lawler. They let me go completely unproduced, like they did at ECW One Night Stand 2005. It was part of a 4-week audition. After the show, I saw Vince again, and I said, Mr. McMahon. Of course, he goes, call me Vince.
Right.
Mr. McMahon is my name on TV. I go, how did I do? He goes, you have great passion. You did great. He goes, we're just going to have to WWE-ize you a little bit.
What did WWE-ize you mean?
Basically, and I found this out, and I was told by Taz how it works, and Vince is very hands-on with announcers, is that I was, what I did best was play-by-play, and Vince didn't want play-by-play. So what he said was, stop doing play-by-play, tell stories. And Kevin Dunn would tell me, we want you to tell stories like JR, but they couldn't tell me exactly what that meant, and I wasn't sure. Which stories, the storylines we're currently doing, do you want me to enhance those? Do you want me to? I didn't know what it meant. So,
Gotcha.
6 months I'm on Raw, and it was probably, let's say I had the second worst announcing career at WWE, only because Mike Adamle followed me. If it wasn't for Mike, I would have that dubious distinction. So it's me, King, and Coach. Love those guys both. But Vince now starts in my ear giving me verbiage. And people think that Vince yells and he's nasty and all that. That has nothing to do with it. Sometimes he does, sometimes he doesn't. I have never dealt with that before. So the way I try to describe it is, I'm sure most people listening have run on a treadmill and you've tripped up. So you're running on a treadmill and you trip up, but you don't fall, you just kind of catch up, and then you get back in your rhythm. Well, I couldn't process the extra voice in my head in addition to my color commentator. So every time Vince would give me a line to say, and it'd be a full line he wants you to repeat, I would mentally trip up and get out of my rhythm. So then I would catch up and he'd feed you another one. I was tripping through these broadcasts to the point where something that was so much fun for me and so natural wound up being difficult for me, and I just wasn't getting the hang of it. And I know Vince was getting frustrated.
Right.
I know I was frustrated. So I found out as we get close to WrestleMania, Kevin Dunn sits me down, and he was very nice about it, but told me that, Vince wasn't thrilled with my announcing. I just wasn't getting it. They were bringing JR back for WrestleMania. And JR was there. It was in Omaha, Nebraska, I remember. And JR, I was sitting outside, and JR came to talk to me, and he's like, tough day at the office. And, I was upset and angry, but not angry at anybody, just angry that I couldn't do this. So JR sat down with me for 6 hours, taught me exactly how to tell stories. So I went to Vince and said, look, Mick Foley and Edge are doing a hardcore match. I've worked hard with Jim Ross to get down the storytelling aspect. I'd like to call that match. I think I'd be good at it. I've called more of those matches than anyone ever. Barbed wire, thumbtacks, fire, everything. And he said, I'll think about it. And Kevin Dunn called me and told me that Vince liked the idea. And if you go back and watch that match, instead of doing play-by-play, I actually tell stories. And I finally got it.